His title is The Glad Game, How to Find the Glad in Spite of the Bad. Please help me welcome the always awesome Joe Weldon. Thank you.
Good morning. We have heard about pain 3 times since you got here, and we started at 9 o'clock. And I know many of you are experiencing pain in your relationships, health, financial, and in other areas of your life. Well, the purpose of this talk is to give you a solution. And that solution, to eliminate some of that pain or reduce it, is to play the glad game. And you're going to know the rules. You're going to have proof it works. There's going to be 3 examples. I'm going to be one of them. So you heard, I'm 77. I was born in 1941. Look at these 3 numbers on the screen. When I was born, bread was 8 cents a loaf. Gasoline was 19 cents a gallon. And the minimum wage was 30 cents an hour. And the average income in America was $2,000 a year. We didn't have many entrepreneurs going at that time. So would you agree that I have some experience based on that time frame? Well, since I know so many of you in this room, and Joe said about being happy and enthusiastic, I do feel that way every day. And a matter of fact, the older I've gotten, the happier I have become. The better I feel physically. And the reason is I've played the glad game. And hopefully, you will be eager to play this game too. And it started 105 years ago in a book by Eleanor Porter called Pollyanna. And Pollyanna was an 11-year-old girl whose father and mother died, sent to live with a mean aunt, got in an accident, and became crippled. But before he died, her father taught her the glad game. And the rules were very simple. He told his daughter, when anything bad happened, pause. Pause. And find the glad in the bad. And when you play this glad game, you can lessen your pain and increase your joy. It is possible. And then you become a Pollyanna. And today, if you Google in the word Pollyanna, it tells you it's an exceptionally cheerful and optimistic person. So I'm going to offer you proof by just looking at Pollyanna. I told you the book was written 105 years ago. 17 books followed, 4 movies. Disney bought the right to those movies, and they had a television series about Pollyanna. And my wonderful wife, Judy, is sitting over here. We've been married 55 years. There's our wedding picture from 1963. And my nickname is Polly. That's what she calls me. Polly this and Polly that. And I'm so proud of that. So let me give you the second proof. Stephen Hawking. We have 10 people here from England. Bad things happened in Stephen's life. And if you've ever seen any of the movies of him or being interviewed, he just died this past year. The problem was, when he was 21, he lost all muscle function in his body. The only thing he could do at the end was twitch a little muscle in his cheek and blink his eyes. So when something bad happens, you pause. And you find the good in the bad. And Stephen was able to do that, even in that terrible condition that he found himself in. So what's the proof? He wrote a book, sold 10 million copies. A speaker, an author, and a scientist. And since we have 10 people here from England, the BBC did a survey, and he was named as the 25th greatest Englishman that's ever lived in the history of that country, with all those bad that happened. Because he learned to play the glad game. By the way, he lived 53 years longer than the doctors said he would, based when he got that illness. It was a remarkable story. Third example, W. Clement Stone. I mentioned him last year. Born in 1902, entrepreneur, author, speaker, philanthropist. When bad things happened, he did pause, but he had one other thing. He did look for the good, but he said, you've got to shout out, that's good. So everybody just shout that out. That's good. That's good. Okay. Then you start looking for the good, and if you start looking for the good, you could find it, and is there proof in his life? Well, I told you I'm married 55. He was married 79 years, lived to be 100 and became a billionaire. Pretty good results from playing the glad game and not focusing on the bad. Cheerful and optimistic. Well, I want to anchor this concept with a story. It's a story that nobody in this room except Judy has ever heard. And it has to do with some physical problems that I was born with. I was born with a skinny neck and long arms and wear a 1535 shirt. Now, for some of the men in this room, like Cameron Herold, who will never wear a tie, he probably hasn't bought a dress shirt. But when you buy dress shirts, their 15 is the neck size, 35 is the sleeve size. Is there anybody in this room that wears a 1535 dress size? Yell out, I do. Who does? You do. You're kidding. With cufflinks. Less than 1%. Cameron, we've got to talk afterwards. See, normally when you have a 15-inch neck, you got a skinny neck, and you have little short arms, 32, 33-inch sleeves. If you have a big 35-inch neck, you got 16 to 18-inch arms. When you have a 35 sleeve, you got 16 to 18-inch neck size. That's bad. Because when you have that problem, you can't buy those shirts anywhere. And whenever I used to do a meeting, I would find that my cuffs, the collars, and the buttons would start falling off. The shirts look worn. I had the opportunity to do a meeting in New York City, and I noticed I wasn't far from Park Avenue, so I started to think, could I play the glad game? Could I look for the good in spite of the bad, not finding those shirts? So I paused, thought about this concept, started walking around Fifth Avenue, and I saw a men's store, and there was a small sign in the window that said, "We have hard-to-find shirt sizes." Well, I rushed into that store. I was greeted by a young man, and he said, "How may I help you?" I said, "I got a problem with my shirts." He said, "You came to the right place. What's your problem?" I said, "I got a skinny neck, long arms, 1535 shirt, can't find them. Do you have them?" He says, "Yes, we do. We have a beautiful selection of them. Would you like to see them?" I said, "Yes." He said, "Tell me about the problems you've had," because that's a very unusual size. I said, "Well, they always wear out. The cuff, the collar, the buttons fall off." He said, "Let me show you about this shirt." And then he took me in the back. He pulled a box off the top of the rack. I never saw that many 1535s in one place. And he opened up the box, and then he said, "Watch this." He took a 2x4. "Cameron, since you're the same shirt size," started rubbing it along the cuff and the collar, not on the shirt I'm wearing, one of the other shirts sitting on the counter. He said, "Notice it won't wear out or fray." I said, "How did you do that?" He said, "I didn't do it. Your manufacturer did. They put a synthetic fiber material in the cuff and the collar, two highest wear areas of men's shirts. It'll always look good, never wear out." I said, "What about my buttons?" He took a hammer that was back there. They were doing some construction, hit the button on one of the shirts, not the one I was wearing, and it didn't break. He said, "It's epoxy-based, mother-of-pearl covered, sewn on with silk thread. It'll never pull off or crack." I said, "That's the most amazing shirt I've ever seen." Can any great salesperson in the room tell me his next question? "How many do you want?" I said, "I'll take them all." What was the price? Who cares when you can solve a problem like that? Now, I told you that was 21 years ago. And I noticed I have one of the shirts on that I got in that store in New York from this guy. Joe, are you there? Joe? Now, you heard what I said about, come and look. These people trust you. How does that cuff look for a shirt going 21 years?
Pretty damn good.
How about the collar?
Yes.
What was the third thing? The button. Yeah. You might like to see the rest of the shirt. Well, wait a minute.
Wow. I was not expecting that.
No, you weren't expecting that.
Wow.
Well, I wanted to anchor this message for you because if you think about what you just saw, hopefully you're going to remember that shirt. And hopefully you'll remember that the shirt is anchored to the glad game. And that if you realize that at any moment in your life you have the chance to focus on the pain or have a chance to open your thinking and look for the good in spite of the bad. And the shirt is just like your life. Exactly. It's filled with imperfections. But when you play the glad game and you focus on finding something positive about everything in your life, you will see solutions you never imagined existed before. And the other thing that will happen, the world will never notice the imperfections. And now, win the prize and be happy. Joe.
Joe.
One more shot. Ah.